My beloved child, there are things I have prepared for you that the instruments of this world were never designed to measure. The banks, with their servers and their ledgers and their algorithms built to calculate the wealth of nations, would stall and fail and go silent if they tried to count what I have written beside your name in the record of heaven. What I have prepared for you does not fit inside their systems. It does not belong to the categories their spreadsheets were built for. And I tell you now, in 3 days, that uncountable provision will begin its movement toward your hands. The window is open. The moment is now. And before this window closes, I need you to hear exactly what is coming and exactly why it has your name on it. Wordzo. Section pattern. The opening heaven's economy operates by different math, my beloved child. Close your eyes for just a moment and imagine this: a vault so vast that it has no visible ceiling, no distant wall, no floor that can be measured. A place of provision so immense that every treasure of the earth is a shadow of what resides there. Now imagine that vault has your name inscribed above its door, not in ink, not in gold, but in the very breath of God who spoke your destiny into being before the first morning light ever broke over the face of creation. That vault is not a metaphor. It is a spiritual reality. It is the storehouse of heaven, and I have been building what is inside it since before you were born. The financial systems of this world operate on a principle of scarcity. They were designed in the context of a finite earth with finite resources distributed among competing parties who must all share from the same limited pool. Banks count what exists. Accountants measure what can be verified. Economists project based on patterns in the visible world. But my economy does not operate in the visible world. My economy operates in the realm of eternal abundance, where multiplication is not limited by supply, where provision is not restricted by market conditions, and where what I release into a life is not constrained by what any earthly system could calculate or contain. When I say to you that the bank cannot count the money that will be yours in 3 days, I am not speaking an exaggerated metaphor to make you feel good. I am speaking a literal spiritual truth. The provision I have prepared for your life is not earthly in origin. It was conceived in heaven, authorized by my sovereign will, and designated for your life in the books of eternity. No earthly financial institution was consulted when I made this plan. No earthly calculation was involved when I set aside what belongs to you. The systems of this world are simply the channels through which heavenly provision enters earthly existence. And sometimes those channels are too narrow to carry the full flow of what I send. I need you to expand your concept of what is possible, my child. Not with human optimism or wishful thinking, but with the genuine enlarging of spiritual vision that comes when you begin to truly believe what I have said in my word. Eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor has entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for those who love him. That scripture is not a vague encouragement. It is a specific statement about the scope of preparation. It is saying, what I have ready for you is so far beyond the reach of your imagination that you have never even conceived of it. Not just more than you hope for, more than you are capable of hoping for. That is what is approaching your life in the next 3 days. And I tell you, heaven has been building toward this moment since before you were born, and the enemy has fought tirelessly to delay it, distort it, or prevent you from recognizing it when it arrives. But today, I am speaking directly into your spirit so that you will not miss what is coming. Today, I am removing the veil. Today, I am giving you eyes to see the magnitude of what has been prepared, and ears to hear the sound of uncountable abundance drawing near. Comment right now with all the force of your faith, I receive heaven's uncountable provision. What God has prepared for me cannot be measured by earthly systems. Let that declaration stand as your agreement with what I am releasing over your life. Let it ring through the spiritual realm and confirm that you are ready to receive what cannot be counted. Section 2. You were chosen. The name written in the book of abundance. My beloved child, before I tell you about the magnitude of what is coming, I must first tell you something even more foundational: why it is coming to you. Because if you do not understand the basis of your selection, the enemy will always have a foothold to whisper that there has been a mistake, that the provision was meant for someone else, that you must have been confused with a more deserving recipient. I will not let that whisper stand. You were chosen not because you are the wealthiest. There are people in this world with far more financial resources than you who will never receive what I am releasing to you, because the condition for receiving heavenly abundance is not existing earthly wealth. There is a principle in heaven's economy that inverts the logic of the world's economy. Those who have the most earthly wealth are often the least equipped to receive heaven's abundance, because they have built their trust in the earthly system rather than in me. But those who have been stripped down by life, those who have been through the seasons where there was not enough, where the calculations came up short no matter how carefully they were managed, those people have often developed a quality of trust and a depth of dependence on me that makes them the perfect vessels for my most extraordinary provision. You were chosen not because you are the most qualified by human standards. Your resume, your education, your professional history, these things are not what heaven consulted when your name was written in the book of abundance. Heaven consulted the record of your faith, the record of your prayers, even the desperate ones, even the broken ones, even the ones you prayed while crying on a floor somewhere in the middle of a night when nothing made sense. Those prayers are not in a pile of forgotten requests on some heavenly desk. They are alive. They are recorded. And each one of them has been building a case in the courts of heaven for the release of what I am describing to you right now. You were chosen not because you are perfect. I know your history, my child. I know the choices that brought you shame and the failures that left scars and the moments where you turned away from my voice and chose the wrong path. I know all of it, and I chose you anyway, not despite the history, through it. Because the very brokenness that the enemy uses as evidence against your worthiness, I have used as a school for your preparation. The people who will be most equipped to handle uncountable abundance with genuine stewardship are not those who have never known lack. They are those who know, in the marrow of their bones, what it felt like when there was not enough, and who therefore will never take for granted the moment when heaven overflows. Your name was written in the book of abundance before the world began, and in 3 days, what was written beside your name begins its movement into the visible dimension of your life. Do not question the selection. Do not argue with the love that placed your name there. Simply open your hands, open your spirit, and receive what has always been yours. Let me speak to you about a pattern that I have observed in the lives of my children who received extraordinary provision. In nearly every case, the blessing arrived through a channel they had not expected, not through the door they were watching, not through the connection they were cultivating, not through the plan they had mapped out as the most logical path to the abundance they needed. It arrived through a side door, an unexpected message, an unlikely connection, a moment that seemed like ordinary life but was actually the opening of the window they had been waiting for. I tell you this not to confuse you but to liberate your gaze. For the next 3 days, do not narrow your focus to the one channel through which you think the uncountable provision must arrive. Keep your eyes wide open. Keep your spirit alert in every direction. The God who created the universe and who designed your specific provision is not limited to the channels you have identified as possible. He often does, work through a channel that surprises you completely. A conversation with someone you would not have thought to have. An email that seems routine until you read it carefully. a connection that forms in a context entirely unrelated to what you expected would be the venue of your breakthrough. The uncountable provision is coming. But it is coming as God, not as you, has determined. And the beauty of receiving in that posture, open, wide, watchful in every direction, is that when it arrives, you will know without any shadow of doubt that it was arranged by heaven and not manufactured by human effort. The signature of the miraculous is always the element of the unexpected. Now, my beloved, I want to share something I have placed in the first pinned comment for this exact moment in your journey. 7 days of angelic whispers for financial peace and blessing is a sacred gift, a revelation, not a transaction, that has been set apart specifically for people standing on the threshold of the kind of provision I am describing. It is a divine guide that will prepare your spirit to receive the uncountable, to recognize heaven's abundance when it begins to arrive, and to remain in spiritual alignment through the 3-day window. Go to the first pinned comment right now and receive what has been prepared in your name. It is waiting. It was always waiting for you. Section 3. The magnitude of what has been prepared, beyond human calculation. My beloved child, I want you to sit with me in this section and let the magnitude of what I have prepared truly reach your heart. Not just your mind, your heart. Because the mind will try to reduce it, to cut it down to a size that feels safe and believable. The mind will say, "This sounds too large. This cannot apply to me. God wouldn't do something this big for someone this ordinary." I need you to let my spirit reach past the filter of your mind and speak directly into the part of you that knows me. The part of you that has felt my presence in the quiet moments, that has heard my voice in the unexpected places, that has sensed my reality beyond all the noise. I prepared provision for you that exceeds what the earthly banking system was designed to process. Let me explain what that means in practical terms. The banking system was designed to count things that exist within the boundaries of earthly economics. It processes numbers. It manages what has already been accumulated, transferred, or generated by human activity in the physical world. But what I am releasing towards you in the next 3 days didn't originate in the physical world. It originated in the eternal storehouse of heaven, in the realm where multiplication is not limited by supply, where abundance is not conditioned on prior acquisition, and where the size of what is given is determined not by what the receiver has earned, but by what the giver has decided to release. Think of it this way, my child. When I fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, the disciples tried to calculate the provision using earthly math. Their calculation produced an impossible answer. Not enough. But I did not work within their calculation. I worked within mine, the math of the God who created matter, who invented multiplication, who is not bound by the conservation of mass or the limits of economic production. When I was done, there were 12 baskets of fragments left over. The provision did not merely meet the need. It exceeded it so dramatically that there was more remaining after the miracle than there had been before it began. That is the nature of what I have prepared for you. It will not merely meet the current need, fill the current gap, resolve the current crisis. It will overflow with such extravagance that there will be more remaining after you have received it than you could have imagined having before you received it. This is heaven's economy in operation. This is the abundance that cannot be measured by earthly instruments because it was never generated by earthly means. Now, my child, I must be clear about something. This magnitude of provision is not coming because you have found a secret formula or because you have made the right confession enough times. It is coming because I decided it was coming, because the fullness of my timing has arrived, and because the purposes for which I designated this provision require that it be released. The season of preparation, the long, often painful, sometimes bewildering season of waiting and trusting and choosing faith over and over again without visible reward. That season was not wasted. It was precisely what qualified you for this moment. The provision is uncountable in scope. The provision is unstoppable in its approach. And the provision is yours, not by accident, not by some mistake of cosmic paperwork, but by the deliberate, sovereign, loving decision of the God who wrote your name in the book of abundance before you drew your first breath. Comment now. The magnitude of God's provision for my life cannot be calculated. I receive what heaven has prepared. Let that declaration anchor your faith in the reality of what is approaching. Section 4, the 3-day window, Heaven's appointed countdown. My beloved child, I need you to understand the spiritual significance of the 3-day period I am declaring over your life. The number 3 is not arbitrary in the architecture of heaven's plans. It is deeply embedded in the patterns of divine action throughout the history of my movements in the earth. 3 days is the pattern of resurrection. 3 days is the duration of Jonah's transformative encounter. 3 days is the time of preparation before Israel encountered my presence at Sinai. 3 days is not just a count of hours. It is a spiritual window, a specially appointed period during which heaven and earth align in a way that makes the transfer of divine provision not just possible, but inevitable for those who are standing in faith at the threshold. This 3-day window is the period during which the spiritual mechanism of the transfer is fully activated. Think of it as the gap between the decision in heaven and the manifestation in earth. The decision has already been made. The provision has already been designated. The approval has already been written in the books of heaven. The 3 days represent the time of transit, the journey of what was decided in eternity into the dimension of time. And I tell you now, you are standing at the beginning of that 3-day transit right now. Why is it important that you know about the 3 days? Because the enemy knows about them too. He cannot stop the provision once the window is open and the recipient is standing in faith. But he can try to fill those 3 days with enough noise, fear, doubt, and distraction to cause the recipient to step out of the posture of receiving. He can try to make you miss the window not by closing it, but by convincing you to turn away from it at the critical moment. This is why I am speaking to you now. This is why I am warning you. Stay in position, stay in faith, stay in the posture of active, expectant, grateful receiving through every hour of the 3 days. Do not let the enemy move you. During the 3-day window, you will be tempted to doubt. Not because the doubt is truthful, but because the intensity of spiritual activity during the window creates an intensified sensitivity to both the enemy's whispers and my voice. Everything is louder during the 3 days. The enemy knows this, and he will try to use the intensity to amplify fear. I know this, and I will use the intensity to amplify faith if you cooperate with me. During the 3 days, I ask you to do 3 things. First, pray with regularity. Not once or twice, but consistently, morning and night, and in the in-between moments when you feel the pull of doubt. Second, declare aloud what you believe. Words spoken in faith during this window carry unusual power. Third, act as though the provision is already in transit, because it is. Make decisions that reflect your faith in what is coming, not your fear of what might not arrive. Comment right now. I am standing in the 3-day window. I will not move from my posture of faith. The provision is in transit. Let your declaration ring through this season as your covenant commitment to the posture that receives. And I tell you again about the sacred gift that is waiting for you in the first pinned comment. 7 days of angelic whispers for financial peace and blessing is a divine revelation. 7 days of heaven's whispers for exactly this kind of season. Its purpose is to carry your spirit through windows exactly like this one, to keep you anchored in divine truth when the enemy tries to move you, to remind you daily of what I have spoken over your life so that nothing, no fear, no circumstance, no voice of discouragement can pull you away from the receiving posture before the provision arrives. Go to the first pinned comment. Receive what was prepared for you. It is waiting there right now. Metida. Section 4. The spiritual test. Why most cannot receive what I have prepared. My beloved child, I must speak to you now about a difficult truth, one that I shared and to discourage you but to honor you with the full picture of what is happening. Not everyone who hears a message like this receives what the message describes. Not because I am a God of favoritism who loves some more than others. Not because the provision is limited and runs out before some people's turn arrives, but because there is a spiritual condition of the heart that determines whether the window of uncountable blessing opens to receive or remains closed to disappoint. The first reason most cannot receive this is unbelief, not the surface-level intellectual doubt of someone who is honestly wrestling with what they have heard, but the deep structural unbelief that says, God could do this in general, but not specifically for me. This is the most common and the most devastating form of unbelief because it often hides behind the language of humility. People say, I don't want to be greedy, or I should be grateful for what I have, or people like me don't receive things like that. But these statements, however humble they sound, are actually agreements with the enemy's narrative about their worth and their place in the economy of heaven's favor, and they are barriers to receiving. The second reason most cannot receive this is fear. Specifically, the fear of what receiving would mean. This may surprise you. Most people assume that the only fear around abundance is the fear of not getting it. But I have seen something different in the hearts of my children. Many are afraid of what they would do with great abundance if they received it. They are afraid of changing. They are afraid of the responsibility. They are afraid of what others would think. They are afraid of who they would become if the financial pressure they have lived under for years was suddenly removed. And that fear, the fear of receiving, is as powerful a barrier as the fear of not receiving. The third reason most cannot receive is ingratitude in the small things. There is a principle in heaven's economy that the one who demonstrates faithful stewardship of small provision qualifies for the release of great provision. This does not mean that poverty is the result of ingratitude or that every rich person is a faithful steward. It means that when I observe a heart that receives even the smallest thing with genuine thanksgiving, who sees my hand in the $20 that arrived unexpectedly, who takes time to thank me for the meal on the table, who notices my care in the small protections of daily life, I see a heart that is exercising the spiritual capacity that great provision requires. Gratitude is not just an emotional response to blessing. It is the training ground of the heart that can be trusted with uncountable provision. The fourth reason is the refusal to take action during the window. Faith is not passive. The window of provision is not a delivery service that requires nothing from the recipient except a willingness to be home when the truck arrives. It requires active, participatory, aligned cooperation. It requires prayer. It requires declaration. It requires stewardship of what is already in hand. It requires relationships of accountability and community. The provision moves toward the active faith, the faith that works, that speaks, that prepares, that expects. My child, I am telling you all of this not to make you feel burdened or afraid of missing the window. I am telling you because I want you to walk through these 3 days with your eyes fully open to what is required of you and with your heart fully aligned with the posture that makes receiving possible. You are not most people. You are here, in this moment, hearing this word for a reason. You are being called into the position of the receiver. Comment, I choose faith, not fear. I choose gratitude, not unbelief. I open myself fully to what God has prepared. Let that be your conscious, deliberate declaration of alignment with the posture of the one who receives uncountable provision. Zixi Deku, Walk Section 6. The Prayer, Positioning Your Spirit for Uncountable Blessing. My beloved child, I am now giving you the prayer for this season, the prayer that positions your spirit to receive the uncountable blessing that heaven has already approved and designated for your life. This prayer is not a magic formula. It is an act of alignment, a bringing of your will into agreement with my will, a placing of your spirit in harmony with the frequency of heaven's provision. Pray it with your whole heart. Let every word be a genuine offering of faith. Father, I come to you right now from this side of the unthinkable. I come to you, having heard what you have declared, that what you have prepared for me is beyond the ability of any earthly system to calculate, that the magnitude of the provision you have set apart for my life exceeds the measurement capacity of human instruments. And I confess, Lord, that part of me is afraid to believe it. Part of me has been conditioned by years of lack, by seasons of not enough, by the repeated experience of hoping and being disappointed, to guard my heart against a hope this large. But I come before you right now to surrender that guardedness. I lay it down. I renounce every agreement I have made with the spirit of lack. Every time I said with my mouth or believed in my heart that abundance was for other people but not for me. I break those agreements now in the name of Jesus. I renounce every lie that told me I was too ordinary, too flawed, too far behind, too late. I renounce the spirit of unworthiness that has tried to convince me that heaven's uncountable provision could not possibly have my name on it. Father, I receive what you have declared, not tentatively, not with 1 foot in and 1 foot out, not with the half commitment of someone who is hoping but not quite believing. I receive it fully. I receive it as the act of a child who trusts the word of their father completely, not because they can calculate the mechanism of how it will happen, but because they know who is making the promise. I ask you now, Lord, to move in my life during these 3 days with the same power with which you moved on the 3rd day when you raised your son from the dead. Raise up the abundance that has been laying dormant in the spiritual dimension, waiting for this exact moment. Raise up the provision that the enemy has tried to bury under seasons of delay and discouragement. Let the 3rd day produce in my financial life what the 3rd day produced in the story of redemption, a transformation so complete that those who witnessed the before cannot reconcile it with the after. Father, I speak to every form of spiritual opposition that has been working against the release of what you prepared. I bind it. I command it to be silent, to stand down, to release its hold in the mighty and unanswerable name of Jesus Christ. The enemy does not have the authority to withhold what you have designated for me. No assignment of delay, no principality of lack, no spirit of shortage has legal standing against the will of the God of all abundance. They must go. The way must be clear. I open my life, Lord. I open my finances. I open my spirit. I open my hands, my mind, my heart, my future. I make room for what is coming. I align my expectations with what you have declared. I choose deliberately and consciously to believe that in 3 days, the uncountable provision you have prepared will begin its manifestation in my life. Let the angels move. Let the windows of heaven open. Let the blessing that has been building toward my life since before my birth finally cross the threshold from the spiritual dimension into the visible, tangible reality of my days. And Father, as I receive this provision, keep my heart tethered to you. Do not let me lose myself in the abundance. Do not let the provision become a distraction from the presence. Keep me grateful. Keep me humble. Keep me purposeful. Let the blessing flow through me into the lives of those who need it, so that what you give to me becomes a source of what you give through me. I receive it. I declare it. I thank you for it in advance, with a gratitude that does not wait for the visible confirmation before it begins to worship. In the name of Jesus, amen. Pray that prayer through all 3 days. Pray it with your eyes closed and your hands open. Pray it standing up, declaring with your body the posture of a receiver. Every repetition of that prayer during the 3-day window deepens the alignment between your spirit and the provision that is in transit toward your life. Comment: I have prayed. The provision is in motion. I receive God's uncountable blessing in these 3 days. Section 7. The 7 angelic whispers for the season of overflow. My beloved child, the angels assigned to this season of your life have been given specific messages to deliver to your spirit. These are not generic encouragements. They are targeted, precise, and perfectly timed for the 3-day window you are now entering. Each whisper carries divine intelligence about the specific nature of what is approaching and what is required of you to receive it in full. The first whisper: what approaches you was calculated by a different accounting system. The provision that is coming to you in these 3 days was calculated by heaven's accounting system, which begins not with what exists on earth, but with what has been authorized in eternity. This is why it exceeds what earthly instruments can count. Do not try to make it fit into your current mental model of how finances work. Receive it with the understanding that it comes from a different source and operates according to different rules. The second whisper: the window is open. Do not look away from it. During the 3-day window, every distraction is an enemy tactic. Every urgent thing that pulls your attention from the posture of faith, from the prayer, the declaration, the expectant openness, is engineered to move you away from the position of receiving at the critical moment. I am not saying ignore the world. I am saying prioritize the posture. Keep the window in your spiritual sight, even as you navigate the ordinary demands of your day. The third whisper: your gratitude is the currency that speeds the transit. The provision is in transit. It is moving from heaven's storehouse toward your life, and the speed of that transit is affected by the quality of your gratitude during the 3 days. Gratitude is not merely an emotional response to what you have already received. It is a spiritual act that creates an atmosphere of abundance that says to heaven, this is a person who will honor what they receive, who will not let it become a cause for pride or forgetfulness, who will keep giving thanks to the source even after the blessing arrives. Gratitude speeds the transit. The fourth whisper: the size of what is coming requires a larger container. Though one of the reasons I speak to you before the provision arrives rather than simply delivering it without preparation is that what is coming requires a larger spiritual container than what you currently carry. The container of your belief system must expand to hold the magnitude of what approaches. The container of your sense of worthiness and divine favor must expand. The container of your vision for your life must expand. If the container is too small, the provision cannot be fully received. These 3 days are not just a countdown to receiving, they are a preparation for carrying. The fifth whisper: the enemy sees what is coming and is in a frenzy. The intensity of spiritual opposition you may feel during these 3 days is a direct reflection of the magnitude of what the enemy can see approaching your life. He can see the provision in transit. He can see the window open. And he is operating in a state of frantic opposition, throwing everything he has at the fortification of your faith. When the opposition intensifies, recognize it for what it is: confirmation that the provision is real, that it is close, and that heaven considers it worth defending. The sixth whisper: what you receive in the overflow is not for your comfort alone. The uncountable nature of the provision I am releasing to you is a signal that it was never designed to fit inside a single life. It is designed to overflow. When you receive it, you will receive more than you can use for yourself, and that excess is intentional. It is the portion that I designated for others through you. The families whose lives will change because of your obedience. The communities whose needs will be met because the provision did not stop with you. Overflow is a design feature, not an accident. The seventh whisper. 3 days from now, your testimony of this moment will already be writing itself. What you choose to believe and declare and receive during these 3 days is writing the first chapter of a testimony that will impact many lives. 3 days from now, you will be looking back at this moment, this exact moment, as the turning point. The moment you decided to believe rather than doubt, to receive rather than deflect, to declare rather than stay silent. This moment is the beginning of the testimony. Write it well with the quality of your faith. Comment, I receive all 7 whispers. I enter the 3-day window prepared and expectant. Let the angels mark your readiness. Duenr, signs that the window is open. What to watch for in the next 3 days. My beloved child, I do not leave you without the ability to recognize what is happening around you during this 3-day window. I am a God who confirms His word, who sends evidence alongside the declaration so that the person who is paying attention can see the footprints of my activity in the details of their daily life. As the uncountable provision moves in transit toward your life, there will be signs, real, tangible, specific signs that the window is open and that heaven is at work. The first sign is a sudden, inexplicable sense of wealth consciousness, not greed. Do not confuse the two. Greed is the desperate grasping of a person who is afraid there will not be enough. Wealth consciousness is the peaceful awareness of abundance, a feeling that somehow permeates your thinking during the 3 days and makes the concept of lack feel strangely distant, like a country you used to live in but have now departed. This is my spirit, adjusting your inner landscape to match the outer reality that is approaching. It is the inside of you catching up to what the outside of you is about to experience. The second sign is an unexpected financial movement, even a small one. It may be a refund you forgot about, an amount that appears in your account without a clear source, an unexpected gift or payment that arrives without explanation. Do not dismiss these small movements as coincidence. They are the leading edge of the larger flow, the first waters of a flood, arriving to tell you that the rain is falling somewhere upstream and the river is rising toward you. Every small, unexpected financial movement during the 3-day window is heaven's preview of what is coming in its fullness. The third sign is a shift in the conversations around you. People will begin to speak about money, about opportunity, about provision, about blessing. In your earshot, in your timeline, in your circle, with unusual frequency. What normally would be background noise will suddenly feel like a carefully arranged confirmation. You will hear stories of people receiving unexpected abundance. You will overhear conversations about financial breakthrough. You will encounter language that mirrors precisely what I have been speaking to you. This is not coincidence. This is heaven surrounding you with confirmation that the provision is real and that you are in the right position to receive it. The fourth sign is an intensified desire to pray. During the 3-day window, if you are spiritually sensitive, you will find yourself drawn to prayer in a way that feels different from your ordinary prayer life. It will feel urgent, not because something is wrong, but because something is happening in the spiritual realm that requires your conscious participation. The desire to pray during these 3 days is heaven's invitation to be an active participant in your own breakthrough rather than a passive observer. The fifth sign is a visitation, in dreams or in waking moments, of imagery that speaks the language of abundance. You may dream of water, rivers, oceans, rain. You may dream of harvest, Fields full, barns overflowing, you may experience a waking moment of unusual clarity where you can see your life in its abundant state as though it were already present. These are not fantasies generated by wishful thinking. They are previews, spiritual downloads of the reality that is approaching. Receive them with gratitude and let them strengthen your faith. When you see these signs, don't keep them to yourself. Share them. Tell someone. Write them down. Create a record of the confirmations that heaven is sending you during these 3 days, so that when the provision arrives and you look back at your notes, you can see the fingerprints of the divine all along the path that led to this moment. And remember what I have placed for you in the first pinned comment, my child. 7 days of angelic whispers for financial peace and blessing will guide you through these signs with spiritual precision. It will help you interpret what you are seeing, calibrate your response to the confirmations, and stay aligned with the posture of receiving through every moment of the 3-day window and beyond. It is in the first pinned comment, waiting for you. It is a sacred gift, a divine revelation that was set apart for exactly this season. Go and receive it right now. Tanat, Section 9. After the abundance arrives, what life looks like in the overflow. My beloved child, let me now take you forward, past the 3 days, past the transit, past the moment of the first arrival, and show you what life looks like when the uncountable provision I have prepared has begun to manifest in your experience. I do this not to tempt you with comfort, but to give your faith a target. Faith needs something to aim at. Vision is the fuel of perseverance, and when you can see clearly what awaits you on the other side of the window, it becomes easier to hold your position through the 3 days. When the uncountable abundance arrives, the first thing you will notice is that the relationship between your life and money will change entirely. Right now, for many of my children who have lived in seasons of lack, there is an anxiety that lives around the subject of finances, a low-grade fear that is always present, always monitoring, always calculating whether there is enough and how long it will last. When the provision of heaven enters your life in its uncountable measure, that anxiety does not just diminish, it disappears. Not because you become careless or irresponsible, but because the abundance is so clearly disproportionate to any possible need that the mathematical foundation of the anxiety simply ceases to exist. You will begin to move through the world with a freedom you have not known before. Decision-making will change. You will no longer make decisions primarily from the framework of what you can afford. You will begin to make decisions from the framework of what aligns with your purpose, what serves the people you were called to serve, what builds the legacy you were called to build, what honors the God who released the provision in the first place. This shift from scarcity-based decision-making to purpose-based decision-making is one of the most profound transformations that uncountable abundance produces in a human life. Your relationships will change. Not all relationships can survive the arrival of abundance, not because abundance corrupts, but because it reveals. People in your life who were connected to you through shared suffering will either grow alongside you into the new season or fall away as the shared context of lack dissolves. This is not tragedy. It is the natural pruning of relationships that no longer serve the direction of your life. And in the space left by those departures, new relationships will form. People called to the same assignment, walking in the same abundance, building toward the same purposes. These relationships will be among the greatest gifts of the new season. Your capacity for generosity will expand in ways that you currently cannot fully imagine. Right now, if someone presents you with a need, your ability to respond is limited by the constraints of your own scarcity. But when the uncountable provision has arrived and the overflow is part of your daily reality, You will find yourself able to respond to needs that you previously could only mourn. You will write a check that changes a family's life. You will fund a project that transforms a community. You will be the answer to a prayer that someone has been praying for years, the way the billionaire in the first script was the answer to a prayer. The cycle of divine provision will have completed itself in your life and begun to generate new cycles in the lives of others. Your intimacy with me will deepen, not diminish. I want to say this clearly because there is a fear, a legitimate fear, rooted in observation, that wealth can pull a person away from dependence on God, that when the financial pressure that drove them to their knees is removed, the prayer life goes quiet. My child, I am telling you in advance, do not let that happen. The uncountable provision I am releasing is intended to deepen your relationship with me, not replace it. Every morning of the new season, come to me with the same hunger, the same openness, the same dependence that you had in the seasons of lack. The abundance will come through me. Do not forget the source when the flow begins. Comment: I receive the vision of life in the overflow. I commit to honoring God as my source through every season of abundance. Vezak. Section X. How to steward the uncountable. The principles of heaven's economy. My beloved child, now that you can see where the provision is headed and what life looks like in its fullness, I must speak to you about stewardship, about the principles that govern the handling of heaven's provision so that it continues to multiply rather than diminish. Because uncountable abundance released without these principles does not always produce the legacy it was designed for. I have seen extraordinary provision mismanaged into mediocrity. I have seen heaven's overflow mishandled into loss. I will not let that happen to you if you receive what I am about to say. The first principle of stewarding uncountable abundance is the tithe, not as a religious obligation, but as a covenant of recognition. When the provision arrives, bring the first portion back to me, not out of fear, not because you owe me for the gift. The gift was given freely, and my love does not operate on a debt system, but because the tithe is a declaration. This came from you. I acknowledge you as the source. I honor the flow by returning its first portion to its origin. This act of covenant creates a spiritual cycle that ensures the provision does not stagnate. It keeps the channel open between heaven's storehouse and your life. The second principle is strategic generosity. Giving that is directed by divine wisdom rather than random impulse. I will lead you to the places where your resources will have the greatest kingdom impact. Not every worthy cause is the right cause for your specific provision. Some gifts are meant for you to give. Others are meant for others. The discernment between the two comes through prayer, through attentiveness to my voice, and through the wisdom that comes from knowing me deeply over time. Be generous, but let your generosity be guided, not scattered. The third principle is simplicity in personal living. One of the greatest dangers of uncountable abundance is the tendency to match the level of personal spending to the level of income, so that no matter how much arrives, it all goes out at the same rate it comes in. I do not call you to poverty in the season of abundance, but I do call you to intentionality, to living at a level that leaves abundant resources free for the purposes I have designated. Let your lifestyle be generous toward others before it is luxurious for yourself. The fourth principle is investment in people. The highest yield investment in heaven's economy is always the human soul. Money invested in education, your own, your children's, your community's, returns dividends for generations. Money invested in raising up the next generation of leaders, in funding the creative work of people called to impact culture, in supporting the spiritual formation of those who will carry my purposes forward. This kind of investment generates returns that no earthly financial instrument can match. And here, my beloved, I want to speak once more about the deeper level of community that is available to you. In the first pinned comment, alongside the sacred gift of 7 days of angelic whispers for financial peace and blessing, there is also an invitation to become a channel member, to join a spiritual community of people who are walking this same journey of faith and abundance together, with access to content that is not available publicly, messages that are reserved for those committed to the deeper path, and a level of spiritual intimacy that goes beyond what a public channel can offer. If your heart feels the call to go deeper, to be part of something that is specifically cultivated for those who are serious about walking in divine purpose and heaven's provision, that door is open for you in the first pinned comment. Maktubod Dudu, Section 13, The Testimony, Ripples of Uncountable Provision. My beloved child, I want to close our time in this section by speaking to you about the testimony that your life of uncountable abundance will become, and about the ripples that testimony will create in the world around you. Because one of the things that makes this particular season of provision so important in the scope of what I am doing in the earth is that the testimonies of abundance that emerge from it will be uniquely powerful in reaching a generation that has been spiritually hardened by disappointment. There is a generation right now, people of all ages, but particularly those who grew up in the information age, who have heard so many promises and seen so few of them fulfilled that they have developed a deep, structural skepticism about the claims of heaven. They have been told that God blesses, but they have watched families fall apart financially and struggle endlessly. They have been told that faith produces abundance, but they have watched faithful people suffer tremendous lack. The gap between what they were promised and what they observed created a wound, a cynicism about divine provision that no amount of theoretical teaching will heal. What will reach them is not more teaching. What will reach them is testimony, living, breathing, embodied testimony. The story of a real person who really prayed and really believed and really received something so extraordinary that it cannot be explained by natural means. The story of uncountable provision flowing into an ordinary life through the channel of extraordinary faith. Your story. When the provision arrives and the testimony is written in your life, share it in the way that will reach the most people. Share it in the spaces where the wounded and the skeptical gather. Do not share it in religious language that will cause it to be dismissed as Christian mythology. Share it in the language of someone who was once in the same place of doubt, because I know that during the 3-day window, you will wrestle with doubt too. Share the wrestling as well as the victory. The authenticity of the struggle is what makes the testimony credible. Share it with your children. The generation that will inherit the earth after you needs to see what a life lived in alignment with heaven's economy actually produces. They need to watch you receive what you did not earn. Steward it with the humility of someone who knows it came from God. Give it with the generosity of someone who is not afraid that the flow will stop, and trust the source through the seasons that come after the initial breakthrough. That is the most powerful financial education you will ever give your children. Not a textbook about money management, but a living example of a person who learned to work with heaven's economy and let it transform every dimension of their life. Comment: my abundance will become a testimony that unlocks faith in others. I receive this provision for my sake and for theirs. Go to the first pinned comment right now, my child. 7 days of angelic whispers for financial peace and blessing is a sacred gift set apart for you. Not a product, not a commercial offering, but a divine revelation that was held in reserve until this exact moment in your journey. It will carry you through the 3-day window. It will guide you in recognizing what heaven is doing in the details of your life. It will help you steward the testimony even as it is being written. Receive it. It belongs to you. Vote woe to detection to earn the final blessing. The window is open and your name is still on it. My beloved child, we have arrived at the end of this message, and the only appropriate response to everything I have spoken over you today is this. Go to the window. Stand at the place where heaven's provision is crossing into earthly reality and receive what has been built toward your life since the beginning of time. Do not let another hour go by in the posture of the one who is waiting to see if this is real. Step into the posture of the one who knows it is real and is making room for what is coming. The window is open. This is not a figure of speech. In the spiritual dimension, at this exact moment, the alignment between heaven's storehouse and your life is more complete than it has been in years. The opposition that was blocking the flow has been weakening with every prayer you have prayed. The interference that was disrupting the frequency has been clearing with every declaration of faith you have made. And now, through this message, through the prayer in section 6, through your declarations throughout this time together, the frequency is clearing completely. The window is open, and your name is still on it. After all the waiting, after all the seasons of not enough, after the times when it felt like the provision had been redirected to someone else, like your address had been somehow removed from the delivery route of heaven's abundance, your name is still on the window. It was always still on the window. The enemy could not remove it. The delay could not erase it. The discouragement could not scratch it out. Your name, written by the finger of God in the book of abundance before the world began, is still exactly where it was written. I speak a final blessing over you now, my beloved child. I speak it with the full authority of heaven as the God who created the system of abundance, who authorized the provision, and who opened the window. I bless your 3 days with divine clarity. Let every fog of doubt be lifted. Let every manufactured confusion be swept away. Let the path between where you stand and what I have prepared be visible, unobstructed, and clear. I bless the transit of uncountable provision toward your life. Let it move without interference. Let no assignment of delay, no principality of lack, no spirit of shortage find any legal ground to slow what I have authorized. Let it travel at the speed of heaven, which is to say, at the speed that needs no permission from the constraints of earthly time. I bless your receiving posture. Let your hands remain open. Let your heart remain unguarded. Let your spirit remain in the state of expectant trust rather than the state of defensive armor that comes from too many disappointed hopes. Let the provision find you ready to receive it in its full measure. I bless what you will do with what arrives. Let generosity be your first instinct. Let gratitude be your continuous language. Let wisdom be your compass as you steward what heaven has released. Let your life in the overflow be a living testament to the economy of a God who does not count in earthly numbers. And I bless your testimony. Let it be written honestly, shared boldly, and received powerfully by the people who need it most, the ones who are standing right now in the same place you were standing when the window first seemed too far away to believe in. Let your testimony be the hand of God reaching back into the moment of their doubt to pull them forward into their own season of uncountable abundance. The window is open, my beloved child. 3 days, uncountable provision. Your name is on it. The only question remaining is whether you will receive it with the fullness of faith that it deserves. I want to speak to you about something that will happen in the hours after you finish reading this message, because the enemy will be ready. He knows what has happened here. He knows that a word was released into your spirit that, if it takes root, will produce a faith that he cannot overcome. And so he will come, probably very soon, with the first wave of doubt. It will feel like common sense. It will wear the face of reasonable caution. It will say things like, "You got excited, but let's be realistic about what life actually looks like." It will compare the current state of your bank account with the magnitude of what was declared and suggest, gently and reasonably, that the gap between the two is too large to be bridged in 3 days. When that voice comes, and it will come, I need you to have already decided what you will do with it, not in the heat of the moment when the doubt is fresh and the emotion of this message has faded. Right now, before you close this video, decide right now with full awareness and full intention. I will not agree with the enemy's measurement of what is possible. I will not allow his calculation to replace mine. His calculation uses the math of the world, fixed amounts, realistic projections, historical patterns, natural laws. My calculation uses the math of heaven, where multiplication is not limited by what already exists, where supply is not constrained by earthly resources, and where the history of a situation is irrelevant because I am the God who makes all things new. Write it down if you can. Write these words somewhere you will see them during the 3 days. The window is open. The provision is in transit. What God prepared for me does not fit inside any earthly calculation. I receive it. Let those words be your anchor. Let them be the answer you return to every time the voice of reasonable doubt tries to close the window of your expectation. And do not navigate these 3 days alone. The community of those who are walking this same journey is available to you. The people who understand what it means to stand in the window of uncountable provision and refuse to be moved from the posture of receiving. Your faith is strengthened by theirs. Their victories encourage yours, and yours will encourage theirs. That community exists, and its door is open in the first pinned comment for those who feel the call to go deeper. Comment one final time with everything you have. The window is open. The provision is in transit. I receive what God has prepared in the uncountable measure of heaven's abundance. It is mine. And go now, right now, to the first pinned comment to receive 7 days of angelic whispers for financial peace and blessing. It is a sacred gift that was set apart for this exact moment in your story. Not for everyone, for you, for this season, for this window, for these 3 days. It is there. Receive it. Heaven is watching. The angels are ready. The provision is in motion. And I, the God of all abundance, am standing at the window with you, waiting to watch your life be transformed by what I have been building toward you since before the foundations of the world were laid. In 3 days, everything changes. And when you look back at this moment, this exact moment when you chose to stand at the window and declare your faith, you will understand why it was necessary. You will understand that the believing came before the seeing, because that is always how heaven operates. Faith opens the window, provision fills it, and the testimony that follows carries the power to open the same window for someone else who needs it. 3 days, uncountable abundance. Your name is on it. Amen.